you this to sound big, but I'm just sharing with you my experience. It was a wonderful privilege to get there. Within the Washington city, or DC, there's a big museum called the African Black American History. Lorna sounds like she's been there. I wanted to cheat, but I'll try to speak the truth now. And that's the wrong thing to speak in a town church. Because if I was in the village where I'm used to preaching, I can say anything without any reprimand. But here I have to be careful. It's about a few floors up. We got a privilege to get there. And there's a corner that I got interested in. When we were going in and we would be taken from room to room, there are so many people also interacting there, and there are several things written on the walls, and I tried to read around, and I got caught up with a story about slave trade. It was a big empire, and people became billionaires. And I got interested in this story. It was a time French, the slaves were taken to America to work in plantations. I came to accept that Americans are better farmers than we are. You could drive from here to Isbaina border and you're still driving on plantations. They don't farm as we do. They don't live with the farms. They have set the farming lands aside and their residences aside. And one of the worst in this slavery is that people were stripped of everything, including their names. They were treated like commodities being sold in the market. No name, they took the name of their master. They could not get married. They were used as cows, and they worked like cows and donkeys. They were regarded as the worst human beings on earth. Friends, the loss of identity was so bad that even in the plantations they were always looking forward to freedom. They were looking forward to the day when they would be free. They were looking forward to the day they would be free from these masters and free from the shackles and the challenges that they were going through. They were looking for the day when the shame and the pain would end. They were looking for the day when they would be free human beings again. And it is interesting. I got from one of the scripts around, the ways these people used to trap people into slavery. They came even as near as Mombasa. You know, those days we are not known about sugar. A few would step out of the ship and distribute some little sugar on your hands, and you taste it and it looks nice. And they will go back into their ships and call you to come in and get more sugar. And ignorant Africans like me and you would freely walk into the ship to get a taste of more sugar, and before you realize, you are in America. Away from your family, no contact, nothing. And you became a slave. It went for so long. There came a time they spoke about freedom. They dreamt about freedom. They sang about freedom. They lost track of how freedom looked like. They knew they wanted freedom, but they didn't know how it would look like because they were far removed from liberty. Some human rights crusaders took a case to the Supreme Court on the northern side of America, challenging slave trade. For years, the proceedings went on until one day the Supreme Court made a ruling. They made a ruling that slave trade was abolished. They made a proclamation that slave trade was abolished in America. The people who were working in the plantations on the northern side heard about this proclamation. And when they heard about this, they dropped their tools of work and said, free at last. Amen. This is one of the proclamations that Martin Luther and the rest came to use many years after. They dropped their tools and they sang songs of freedom. They knew they were free. So they left everything they were doing and celebrated their freedom. But there was a problem with the South. It needed somebody from the North to travel there with a proclamation of the court to let them free. So as much as a declaration had been made that they were free, they needed somebody to go to the South and tell them about freedom. So without the knowledge of the Supreme Court ruling, they continued to work in the plantations. They continued to be treated like cows. And when you grew old, they would not take you to hospital if you're sick. They would not take care of your wounds. You'd be driven to the nearest market and be sold to another master. And if you are too strong, they did something that looked weird. They could pick strong women and match them with strong men so that they could give birth to homegrown slaves. That was wicked. But they had no choice. Friends, it took years. And I came to learn, I'm not a good historian, but there's something I picked from my journey there. I came to learn that it took the intervention of two young Germans. I think one was called Johann and another David. These are facts you can Google and find them. It was a time when Germany was divided into 300 kingdoms. There's one king who devoted his time to spreading the gospel. And two young Germans came out when they heard about the plight of their friends in the South. When they approached authorities to get the permission to travel to the South, they were told, no, you can't go unless you are a slave yourself. And after 1 year of prayer, these two young men made a decision that they are going to sell themselves into slavery. And when a ship arrived in Germany, they quickly boarded to reach out to Moravian Church, and they said bye to their family members, and they said these words, that we are going to reclaim the lamb, the reward of Jesus' sacrifice. And they knew that they would never see their family members again. And they waved bye to them. And they got out as slaves. My friend, around last year, I got a chance when the Southern Kenya Lake Field was being organized. And we came across two tombs. There were tombs of children of missionaries who came to Kenya to preach the word. And their children died in Kenya, and they were buried there. And something came to my mind. These were people who could fly their children back to their country to be treated. Maybe they died of malaria because there was nobody to treat them. Maybe they died from Maugo. I don't know how to call Maugo in English. I'm a villager. You call it fly. Thank you. That's a good thing to come to Harvest Church. You know, maybe they died of flies, but they didn't give up. They came. They allowed their children to die so that they could teach us how to put on a tie. They could teach us how to read and write. They could teach us how to read the Bible. They gave their lives to preach this gospel. I'm told when I was in America, there are some people, when they traveled to Africa, they did not pack their clothes in beautiful suitcases. They put their clothes in coffins. They made coffins in America and put their clothes in those coffins. Why? When they came to Africa, they didn't like the way Africans buried the dead. You know, they could do a tomb and do a corner this way and another corner and wrap you in blankets and throw you inside. This didn't scare the whites who came missionaries. Instead, they say, we know we will die in Africa, but we'll go with our own coffins. So that when we die, we can be buried decently. Friends, the gospel that you and I enjoy today, some people gave their lives for us to get it. Some people buried their children for us to get it. Some people are learned when they are dying, they write wills to donate their estates to the General Conference to help in mission. Wewe ukitoa 10,000 kwa camp meeting, sipochaguliwa church elder, we'll have a problem the whole year. Praise God. But some people are bequeathing their bank accounts, their estates which they have struggled to build, so that the message can be preached. I heard the only way you greet each other is by a song. When I came from home, I almost said, Bede Karaya, yes, Karaya. Praise God, hallelujah.
Praise God, amen. Praise God, hallelujah. Praise God, amen.
Just wake up somebody sleeping next to you so that we can sing together. Praise God, hallelujah.
Praise God, amen. Praise God, hallelujah. Praise God, amen.
Thank you. You know, my friends, for me and you to be a Christian, Christ left his throne where angels would come every morning and evening and say, holy, holy, and holy. And he was made man. I'm reminded when I came across a script describing the journey to the cross, that these guys came, and the first thing they did was to strip Jesus Christ naked. And once they stripped him and they tied him up, some two men who had been prepared with a special, anytime my English fail me, you help me. With special whips, and they came, and these whips were specially made, and they are fixed with some creative guy called them, a sheep teeth, and I had to do a research, and I realized that the sharpest teeth of all animals need a condom. You ever known that? And God made them humble so that they don't bite you. And researchers say that it's the sharpest teeth, and they made it with such kind of teeth and with some sharp iron tied to it, and they came to Jesus. And one picked the first back, and when he threw it in, it could go into the skin and pull it down. And another came on this other side like they're making a V on his back, and threw it in and down. And when they were done with him, with blood oozing out, they took the cloth again and wrapped him. Some of you who grew like a villager like me, if you had a wound and maybe ukafunga kakitambaa and the blood clots there, when somebody comes to pluck that from you, would you celebrate? Once they had wrapped him and they took him to that cross, and they laid him there, and the first thing they did, Saul was now become Paul, were the guys at the cross to put a vote on who was going to take his clothes. And they stripped him again. Wow. And I heard this man speak. As they were herding him through Gethsemane, and I read the pen of inspiration, told me that the devil visited Jesus at Gethsemane. And he told him, man, these guys are going to abandon you. Must you die for them? And out of a lot of pleading from the devil, he said, Father, let this cup pass. But quickly, something said. He quickly added something. And let your will prevail. And when Christ looked across eternity, across history, he knew that one day me and you would need salvation. And there was no way that salvation would come except if he went through that shameful death on the cross. And when heaven watched Jesus on the cross, the angels could not sustain that. They pulled their faces down. And what God did, he clothed the earth with darkness. And instead of pulling his son from the cross, he walked down the cross. So that me and you could be saved. When Paul looked back at this experience, he says, by the grace of God, just read that verse. But by the grace of God, I am what I am. Friends, what are you now? You know, brothers, this verse took me back to my youthful age. I was learning at Kanyangasi Primary School. Hello. You know, some of you went to the McKinney group of schools. You know, some of you went to group of schools. As we went to a single school, amen? And as we were going to Kanyangasi Primary School, you know, when it's lunchtime, the best shoes then, if you are fairly doing well, was Ochieng. You know, there was sandak. Okay? Si sandak ya siku hizi, unaiona sandak ya siku hizi, unaweza pata kwa Mercedes Benz. Sandak was a sign of poverty. But they had a way of forcing you to pull them off when there's a lot of sunshine. When it is hot, you cannot sustain them. So we would remove them, my good friend Ogebo, and try to walk, get a path off the main road. You would walk on the terraces because the road is equally hot. And when I was just about to get home, I would meet my grandma Nerea carrying firewood. She's just coming from the shower and tell me, my grandson, just pick the firewood and run home. And put up the fire, I'm coming. And when I get home and try to put up the fire, and when the water is just about ready, you hear the bell ring. And this lady would look into my face and tell me, just go to school, I will keep the lunch for you. I don't know if somebody experienced this. You know, parents, let me challenge you. Sometimes it is good to call your children around you and tell them how you got where you are. Because if you don't tell them, they may think that you are also driven to school feeling. They may think so. They may think, as we drive them to school today, they may think that you are also driven to school. One time, I just gathered my children around me and I told them my story. And I heard some of them cry. Some of us who grew up as orphans, and I could tell them the life we went through. And my daughter asked me, Dad, how could they be that harsh to you? Then I told them, I am who I am because of the grace of God.
Amen.
I know you have your own story. You know, some of us, you could only taste cuckoo or buttered bread, or maybe when our in-laws visit, or it is Christmas. Do I have a witness in the house? Some of us friends would go to the crates, empty crates, which wangwana wametumia, na wangwana huwa hawakuwa wanamaliza soda yote. You know, just forgive me for being a villager. You know, somebody would be wondering, could he bring such a someone to town? You know, and people would go into this place. Maybe liars with a stoneman to maybe sneak out one loaf of bread when a funeral of some renowned man had died. And once you have this bread with you, we could go into the crates and empty them. Now just squeezing gonna taste Coca-Cola, get me Sprite. Those didn't make sense to us. It was soda. You know, we could even be attracted to the smell of that bottle top. Could smell it. But you know, friends, today you sit with your children on a dining table, which goes round. Kuna zingine zinaenda round. Yangu lazima ibebwe, lakini morning, how are you? Kuna zingine that goes what? Round. And you put jam there, put blueband, and a child would just pick bread and eat it that way. But he doesn't want blueband, he doesn't want jam. My friends, but by the grace of God, I am who I am. Can you relate with that? Can you get a picture of your home? Can you get, my friends, the memory of the trenches through which Jesus Christ has traveled with you and me? To an extent that today, if you have to go to a place and your car has a problem, you will order for a taxi. You can't remember when last you took a public means to any place. Paul, reflecting on his life and the trenches that walked with God, he says that by your grace, Lord, I am who I am. But now, the next question is where I'm taking you to, if you agree with me. That His grace which was bestowed upon me was not in what? Friends, that's the catch. What have you done with the grace of God? After God bringing me and you this far, what have we done with that grace? What have we done with the grace that God has extended to us? Some of us, people have given up on. You studied in the hands of people. Look, your mom went to every shamba to get you to school. He talked to everybody. The serving counselor, to the former who didn't get it, to those who contested and did not get, to get you in school. And after graduating, after being who you have become, you know, sometimes I listen. Parents, I don't know if you listen with me. When press people look for those great performers and they begin to talk, do you hear God well? It is the hard work of the teachers, and thank God for my parents. What does that teach you? That our family pulpits are collapsed, that our children today cannot relate their success to God. They can only see their hard work. They can only see the hard work of their teachers. They can only, according to discipline in school, they don't see God in their success. You know, our old grandmoms never went to school, but they knew how to carefully bring up a story and instill Jesus in our lives. They would come around a fire and tell us about the great man with a lot of literature, yet they didn't go to school. I wonder today how they package their lessons. They would tell us about great homes around. They said, you know, so and so, yes. So and so, yes. So and so, yes. And then again come to the low families and tell us about some. And then come to the spiritual aspect and say, you know what? They are successful because they were good tithers. They are successful by telling you about what their grandfather did, yes. And then they would tell us a story. And the story would end in a vow, in a prayer, that we too would commit ourselves to God. My friends, how does your stories with your children end in the house? You know, that is what stewardship is all about. It's about your response to the grace of God. It is not about a beautiful sermon. It's not about a good pastor. It's about your response to the grace of God. When God wanted to respond to the love He has for us, He gave His Son. What do you do with the grace of God? Paul says, I didn't leave that grace to go in vain. I worked harder than all of them. He was not there when Jesus called Peter come. He was not there when Matthew was called. He was not there when John was invited. He just interacted with this man in a vision. And you know what he was going to do? When Paul was sitting in his office, he saw some poor man with some fishermen around him. And he inquired, what are these guys doing? He said, that is Jesus and his disciples. He said, isn't this the son of Joseph, the carpenter down the road? And it mean, even if it was the Son of God, could he just pick fishermen as his followers? He could get a doctor. He could get an engineer. He could get a teacher. He said, no, we must finish this confusion. And he got permission to go and wipe these confused people calling themselves Christians and bringing shame to their seat. And as he was out on that errand, he came into contact with this man called Jesus. We changed his thoughts. And when he got to that, he said, man, I will not care what Peter is doing. I will not care what John is doing. I will give Jesus my best. And he comes out to say that his grace which was bestowed upon me was not in vain, but I labor more abundantly than they all. Yet not I, but the grace of God which was with me. My friends, if you still tie your life of faithfulness to how good a pastor is to you, you need to be a candidate of baptism today. If you still tie stewardship to a preacher before you, you don't need even to read the Bible to be faithful to your God. Do you know, my friends, as you are sitting here in church, there is a Mercedes-Benz parked by Nairobi Hospital today. There is a TX parked around the Gakan today. Life has pushed people back to where they began life. For food to get into their mouth, somebody is feeding them. They have estates, they have vehicles, but they cannot sell them at this time. Somebody is struggling with life. God has given you life today, free of charge. What do you do with it? What you do with this life? God has put some money in your pocket. You are in some gainful employment. And by the way, sad to tell you, I don't know about CNC, but when I look at my records in Lake Victoria Field, the mission of the church is being sustained by the small-scale business women, which in Luo we call the Asweka. They are the majority in this church. They go sell their small fish, they go sell their vegetables, and they quickly in the evening calculate 10%. And because they are the majority, they walk in church and give their offering every Sabbath. God has left some little mark for me and you to learn from those people. When we take our children to academies, they send their children to the local public schools. And when the results come, our children have gotten average grades, C+, where their children have B+, A-, and wings to fly are chasing them in the village. Their God has left this mark to remind me and you that the success of your children is not in the good schools they go to. It is in your faithfulness to God that will turn them into great achievers. Wangwana who have jobs, who have brains, simple basic algebra of 1/10 or 10% is so complicated for an accountant. It's so complicated for a teacher listening to me here. is so complicated to an engineer and a doctor. This simple basic algebra has only been gotten by the common members of the church. I want to speak to Angwana today that the Bible records that if much is given, much is what? Expected of you. God has never asked from anyone what he doesn't have, because he knows what he gave you. And that is what he is coming to call you today, to be faithful in it. How I pray that you may go back to the foundations of our faith. The faith of our grandparents that a songwriter wrote, tupe moto wa uhai ile wa zamani. What did those people do? I remember my grandfather Ochieng, after plantations and weeding, he would walk me down the farm and we would count with him lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 with I. Go to the next, to the last. And when it comes harvest time, you will begin with God's lines. And even if there are 15 sacks of maize, he will carry them to Obera SD church. Maybe that is why I'm still in the church today preaching. I don't know what you're planting for your family. I don't know what you're planting for your children. Allow me to finish by a story I came across. In Britain, there lived some 2 orphans. They had eaten everything left, and they were staring at death. They asked themselves what they could do. The only thing around them was a home far off of some rich man. And they said, we have no choice, that we have to go and beg food from that home. And they walked down in the eyes. The older talked to the younger one. And they said, you will be the one who would knock. Because if I knock, they might not open. But because you are a child, if you knock, they will have mercy on you. And so they went. And the elder one hid himself, and the younger one knocked. A lady opened the door, and when he saw a child in the cold, he pulled the child in and returned the door. Put him around the fire, prepared some soup. Unajua huku kwetu tunatengeneza chai, si ndio? Huko wanatengeneza soup. So he prepared a soup and brought it to this child. And the child refused to take the soup. After a lot of pleading, he uttered a word. How can I eat? Yet my brother is outside. How can I enjoy the food? Yet my brother is outside. My friends, you knocked on God's door and He opened. He gave you a job, He gave you a wife, He gave you a family. But as you walk down the streets, He has brought you on to church. As you walk down the streets, do you meet drunkards? Do you meet people who are still drug addicts? Do you meet street boys chewing gum? Do you know that out here there are people who think SDA is a cult? You know, one time went to preach in Ukambani, and we got into a home, and I saw a man, a wife, and his children take off. But mashetani wameingia kwa boma yao. But I shed tears that after 2 weeks, that man gave his life with his family for baptism. Do you know there was a time we had a mission last year, just here and here. And I was taken to a church with 20 widows and no single man in church. The mission, the fields are white. The fields are white, my friends. God is looking for people who can step out of their comfort and get this message to our brothers out there. And the songwriter said, if you cannot preach like Paul, with your few coins in your bank, if you become faithful, it will go a long way into getting this message to Siaya, and getting this message to Ugenya, and getting this message to other places, Suba, which have not been reached by the gospel of God. And the question is, what are you going to do with the grace of God? With the favor that He has extended to you and me. It is my prayer that if you have to respond, then you may respond positively to the call of stewardship, to the call of being faithful to God, so that our brother out there may be saved. If it is your prayer that having looked at your life and the grace of God upon your life, vis-a-vis your faithfulness to Him, you feel ashamed, and you are asking God today to give you and me the strength to be faithful, please just come. I want to pray with you. If I can get one, I can get two, who are feeling ashamed by the grace of God, and they feel they have not given God enough. They're saying, God, help me that I may be faithful to you. Just come. Let's make us